New Jersey Congresswoman LaMonica McIver has pled not guilty to assault charges stemming from a scuffle outside a Newark detention facility. McIver is accused of slamming a federal agent with her forearm, forcibly grabbing him, and using her forearms to strike another agent. She has flatly rejected the government's description of the events, noting she was there to conduct a congressional oversight visit. Joining me now, MSNBC legal analyst and former Brooklyn prosecutor Charles Coleman and MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin. Lisa, walk us through what we know about the hearing today.
Well, first of all, as you noted, we know that Congresswoman McIver pled not guilty. That's not a surprise, both because most criminal defendants plead not guilty, but also because she has been steadfast in maintaining that she is not guilty of the crimes of which she has been accused. But Chris, the other important thing that happened today is a trial date was set. We have a trial date of November 10th. That's notable because for a couple of reasons. One, this is not a document-intensive case. This is a case where a lot will turn on the video evidence that's shown to the jury, but not the kind of case where we're talking about reams or gigabytes of electronic evidence or documents. It could have been tried perhaps a little bit sooner. At the same time, November 10th will strike some of our viewers as relatively soon enough. And I know that Congresswoman McIver is eager to get to court sooner rather than later.
It's not every day, Charles, we see a member of Congress charged with some sort of physical violence. But as Lisa notes, it's there on videotape. Does the videotape tell us that the government has a strong case?
Strong case is relative. And what I mean by that is ultimately a case like this is coming down to a simple assault. I mean, I think that there are some other factors, obviously, that have been charged and alleged in terms of the notion that she attempted to try and stop police from affecting the arrest of Ras Baraka. But ultimately, Chris, this is not going anywhere. And yes, the video evidence sort of speaks for itself, but it also belies the notion that the Congresswoman had a right to be there, that these are people who were supposed to be able to be in this space and ultimately were prohibited from being so. And so these things, while we are watching it from a legal standpoint, from a political standpoint, it's more political theater than it is sort of a legal question. And that's exactly how I expect things to play out.
And this does not seem, again, to your point, Lisa, and having heard from the Congresswoman, like something she would settle. There's not going to be a plea deal here. So without those reams of documents, is it going to be, let's put up the video, play 1 second and stop, play another second and stop? How do you see this unfolding in terms of the prosecution case?
Well, first of all, yes, I think that the jury will be shown stills from the video, but let's pause on the word video because there are videos, plural. And one of the things I expect will be an issue of dispute is how many of these videos can be admitted, because depending on the angle at which you see what transpired in front of Delaney Hall, events look very different. Some of the footage that we've seen from the Department of Homeland Security is taken from the vantage point of body-worn cameras from officers. There is other video that shows other angles here, and I expect that the jury will see multiple videos at the trial if there ever is one. And I say if there ever is one for a couple of reasons. Right now, the interim United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey is Alina Habba, who was formerly a counselor to the president. But that's an interim position that expires sometime this summer. She's not expected to be nominated to that post by President Trump for the permanent position. We could have a very different U.S. attorney in place by November when this case is projected to be tried, Chris.
But that hasn't stopped the Campaign for Accountability for filing a complaint this week against her because they allege Habba has acted improperly since she became the interim prosecutor, citing her actions in the McIver case, along with comments about turning New Jersey red and announcing investigations into Democratic governor and attorney general over immigration. Could that play into this somehow?
Not necessarily directly, but I think it's interesting because for me, I'm going to take what Lisa said a step further. This is not something that I really foresee going to trial at all. However, these issues that Alina Habba is now confronted with, not only from Ras Baraka, but now for this new lawsuit, they're not going anywhere. And I'm not necessarily suggesting that these are going to go to trial. They're all civil matters. They could result in a settlement. But just because she's no longer in the office does not mean that these particular lawsuits are going to stop. And so I expect that these are issues that are going to follow her wherever her future takes her, as opposed to this case against Congresswoman McIver, which I suspect will end at some point in a plea deal or a dismissal.
It'll be, if it goes to court, a jury trial, right?
It will.
What would you expect there? Is this going to be one of those, I mean, look, it's always critical who the jury is, But what would you be looking for if this goes to trial? Because how you interpret what you see on that tape may have something to do with your own inclination or political views.
That's absolutely true. But certainly, we have seen political trials before, Chris. As you well know, I covered every day of that Trump criminal trial last year, where there's not a person on the island of Manhattan who was not aware of the charges against President Trump, who he was, what some of the controversies around the charges were. And yet, they came to an agreement with respect to the composition of the jury. So I expect that there will be some attempt to suss out political bias by the jurors, and yet I don't think that that will be an impediment to having a full and fair trial against Congresswoman McIver if it comes to that.